You know you wanna do it. You'd do it right now if nobody was watching, would you? You'd clamp your jaws around my throat and bite down hard until the gods above answer my pleas for help. You'd have no problem spilling holy blood.
It was true. He thought of it countless times. He dreamed of it many nights. He would sometimes imagine himself tearing into the skull of those creatures while eating. He'd punish the heavens above for the misery inflicted upon him, the pain of his existence and creation most of all.
Oh, you wanna kill me so bad? You wanna torture me? You would dig your claws and teeth into me and then devour my lifeless corpse? And let me tell you, it would do nothing.
The Ares taunted him.
You're just afraid of everyone here.
He wished he had found the Ares somewhere else. Perhaps in a secluded cave. He would have gotten the satisfaction of making it beg, making it squirm as he inevitably killed it. But no, he had to have gotten his Ares encounter here, of all places, right out in the public, and have the chance slip from his grasp. He growled. What were the chances he could kill a heavenly being like this again? What were the chances he would find one out in the open again? With how exclusive those things were. His muscles tensed. It laughed at him. The vile lot of them. The disgusting, cruel ones. They had no right to call him inferior or see themselves as holy. They simply had more power. That was all. He leapt. The Ares was a mess of claws and wings and fur and feathers. He couldn't get a solid grip on it. He could only bite and claw and hope it did something. They both rolled across the sand, thrashing. The grains got into his eyes and nose and made it hard to see his opponent. Darker fur, unmistakably its scruff. He stretched his jaws wide open and slammed his head into the fur. His jaws sank into the creature's flesh, teeth catching onto something thin and flexible and hard, golden blood running down his neck. He threw his head back, tearing away a chunk of its body, snapping a thin cord with a flat disc on it, and sending it flying into the ground behind him. The creature kicked and thrashed and struggled, but it was clearly growing weak. He gripped it tighter, feeling it finally fold in. Finally. He had his moment. He hissed with triumph, licking his jaws clean of the sweet-tasting golden liquid. So what if everyone was staring at him? He tore into the carcass, relishing the pale flesh greatly, though he took care not to damage the corpse too much. The Ares' bones picked clean. He picked the skeleton out and tossed them into a pile behind him. Sure, its pelt was quite broken and clawed up, but it would do. He slipped into its pelt, thick fur concealing bright green, shedding his old hide. A glint from the sand attracted his attention. He walked closer and realized it was the discarded disc from earlier, shimmering pink and yellow in the sun. He squinted at it and saw faint, darker patterns engraved on it. As he was studying it, a black and gold talon picked it up, the disc vanishing in its grasp. He looked up, at the creature whose appearance he had stolen.
You fool.
It sneered.
You really think a god could be slain that easily?
Of course, they weren't a god. None of them were. There was only one in this forsaken land. At least only one they recognized. And that was the angelic warden, the hope of life and death, or Stephen, as some other immortals called it. But for such a wretched creature to know its deities, frankly, a low chance. They dipped their head and sent a silent prayer of apology to the angelic warden for the blasphemy they had just uttered, before continuing to regard the thing in front of them.
Foolish.
It clearly had no morals or thoughts of its own. Nothing it was bound to other than survival. Its corpse would rot on the ground and be forgotten soon enough, as did all non-believers of Stephen.
You can pretend to be one of us as long as you want,
They growled.
but you'll always be a filthy thing on the inside. A rotten fruit. Only perfect on the outside. You may steal my looks and my pelt, but it too will rot. And I will be watching when you and your entire memory is eventually erased from this land.
It looked up with those awful eyes straight into them, and then it turned and ran. It had no thoughts, nothing but survival, no desires but to eat and drink and sleep and live another day. It cycled above the sea, and through it could sense a cool wind rustling through its wings and shaking the shards of its body out. It didn't feel anything, neither enjoyment or dislike. It had no preferences, no identity of its own, which is why it was perfect. They watched a little further, observing the behavior and patterns of the flickslit until they were sure they could replicate its behavior. It paused for a moment, hovering in the air. It was the best moment to strike. The Aries gritted its teeth. This always hurt, always made them feel dizzy and woozy and uncomfortable, like their organs were being squished into mush, but they had to do it. They needed to know where the damned Andoli was, and they couldn't do it themselves. There, a moment later, they were hovering in that exact same spot. The Aries wasn't used to having 4 wings, and so stumbled for a moment, but they recovered quickly. The flickslit had great scenting abilities. One sharp intake of air, and they already knew where to go. Flap, flap, flap. They soared through the sky in the body of another, using the body of another.
Just like that damn Undali.
No, it was different, because the flickslit wasn't hurt, wasn't mauled, and it just needed to borrow it for a while. There, glowing yellow and green, it adjusted the altitude of its wings a little.
You're not a Flixit. Those wings aren't yours.
And swooped a little closer to the creature that wore their pelt. Disgusting, shameful, and Andoli wearing their pelt. A sign of weakness, of being defeated. Out of habit, they hissed. And to their surprise, a jet of gold came out all the same. Except, not all the same. It was far higher pressure, and it came out in a narrow jet. They weren't used to it, but neither was the Andoli. Too bad. They swooped in and started biting, feeling the satisfying tear of fur and then flesh under new jaws. A hazel green blocked the vision as blood trickled out of the creature, but it didn't stop. It bit back. They felt a solid crunch on the Flixlit's left wing, heard the crack of multiple bones. They weren't used to this kind of pain. The corners of their vision started blurring. Everything was green and bright gold and pure agony as the attack came again. Vaguely they remembered they had bread and turned the Flixlit's head to face the Undoli. Inhale.
Inhale.
Was getting harder to move.
More.
To think.
Aim.
To breathe. They weren't sure whether it was because they were losing control, or because of the pain, or because they were losing control from the intensity of the pain. They could feel the creature fighting them, trying to get away.
No.
With more power, the Ares forced the Fixlit to stay. They made it stand here. The Undoli leapt at it.
Now!
With a final breath, its beak opened and sprayed a jet of gold at it. The Ares was violently jerked awake, scattering sand everywhere. Everything hurt. They saw the tide coming in and hopped into the air, before remembering they weren't wounded, that there were no scratches for the salt water to sting. They knew that somewhere there was a dead Flixlit who had paid the price for them, but they didn't feel sorry. They just felt determined. Okay, what's your thoughts?
I think we did pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think we surpassed even some like professional voice actors, in my opinion.
For real.
And my favorite part was the like second area.
Yeah.
You know, number 2. I liked that part the most. I feel like I did well, the best.
It did great. You did great, yeah.
Thank you. And my favorite part of your narration was the first and the third bit. I like those the most.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I loved your first one as well. Every part of it that was involving you, it was great.
And every part that involved you was also phenomenal.
Thank you. What do you think about the story itself?
The story is pretty okay. It has an interesting like plot.
Yeah.
I just wish it was like formatted a little better because it's kind of confusing.
It is, yeah.
Like good story, good plot, but bad formatting. No offense to the original creator.
Yeah, like no offense, it's good, but like we kind of like when we first looked at the story, we kind of had to like think what we're talking as a like what perspective we're talking through, and it was annoying to like for me it was annoying like to try and understand what the story is about, and like just some grammatical errors here and there, which is completely fine, but like they I don't know, just some of the delivery lines, they don't feel very dramatic. You know, it just feels like it's trying a little too hard. But it's good. It's a good plot, I guess.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
This is why beta readers are important to have. If you don't have them, force someone. Just kidding, I don't encourage it.
I encourage it. Anyways, so.
You encourage forcing someone to be a beta reader, alright.
Yeah. So, with that being said, I am Frown. This is Ross. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, what should they do?
They should fucking like and subscribe and comment. You should comment. Ross and Frown are the best voice actors.
Hell yeah. Alright, so bye. Hey, Blooper Frowns here. Alright, so remember the text you saw in the black screen? Yeah, so let me explain. The video was meant to work this way. Ross and I record audio, my friends help capture the footage of the species in-game, reenacting the scenes. I edit and I post and I make money. Simple as that. But you know life. Life is a piece of shit. Apparently, I didn't properly adjust my audio. So when it came out, the recorded audio on my side sounded dull and or too quiet. So yeah, I fucked that part up. Then capturing the footage of the creatures was absolutely painful. The weather, the season, just everything just kept changing. There were tornadoes and all that. And it was just so hard to capture a scene and time we needed without all these disruptions. So yeah, if we actually waited, it would have taken hours and days. So we just said, no, you're right. That's why I tried to even do like some screenshots, as you saw in the start of the video, but it failed as well. So yeah, so ultimately I threw in the towel and I said, you know what, we have to speed run this. So I brought in Alix, my amazing channel co-owner and like my artist, to help me work on some scenes by just drawing, and I'm just gonna throw in whatever editing I can do. So yeah, and this is the final product. Am I proud of it? Do I like it? Absolutely not. I think for my part, I was dog shit. Like I genuinely think I did a horrible part on my part. But I think everyone else, all the recorders, Alex, Ross, all that, they did a fantastic job. Like thank you so much. But yeah, anyways, here are some bloopers for you guys to enjoy. So yeah,